And we are live. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It is Friday, October 14th, 2022. And we're talking about ads potentially coming to Apple TV Plus. They are coming to Netflix. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about some rumors for the iPhone 14. We're also going to talk about how the iPhone 14 seems to be accidentally triggering crash detection when you probably don't want it to. We've got airlines trying to ban AirTags and a whole bunch more. Steven's going to talk to us about the Apple Watch Series 8. And so that's a bunch of fun stuff because this is the iMore show. I am your host, Luke Filipovich, and I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Karen Freeman, iMore contributor. How are you doing, Karen?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. And we are joined by the long-lost prodigal son of the iMore show, Stephen Warwick, who has finally mostly recovered from his bout with COVID. So welcome back. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Oh, thank you. No, good to be back. Yeah, and nice to be vertical rather than horizontal, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. So starting off right away. So to get a little context of this, Netflix is launching its ad-tiered version of its service. So I'm still trying to figure out who wants to pay for ads. I don't know if either of you have an inkling of who that would be.
Not at all.
Well,
it's weird.
We're not going to have any choice. We're either going to pay for ads or we're going to pay more not to have ads. So that seems to be the model that most streaming services are adopting now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like Netflix is the first one to do this. In fact, Hulu for the longest time, I think even maybe since its inception, I don't know if that's true or not, but for the longest time, Hulu has had like an ad version and an ad-free version.
Yeah, HBO Max as well.
Yeah, there you go. So it's definitely not unprecedented. It's interesting that Netflix is kind of doing it now, especially since, I think for a long time, Netflix was pretty against trying to do something like this. But as we know, Netflix hasn't been in the best position recently. We've heard of like subscribers. They're kind of losing subscribers a lot. It seems like every update is still they provide is still kind of showing a bit of a leaking there. There's just so much other competition. But the plan is going to be like relatively cheap, I guess, like $6.99 per month in the United States.
$7 instead
they're
of
dropping it they're dropping it to get to the ad supported tier and keeping they're keeping the regular price for
$20 for 4K. Yeah, the box standard kind of bells and whistles one. Yeah, so it is a big save. Like $13 a month. So $150 a year. Like it does add up. I think for me the biggest thing, I wouldn't mind adverts so much, but it's adverts and you only get to stream in 720p, like not even like 1080p full HD, which would be just excruciating to watch. So far more than like, do you want ads on the service or not? For me, I would be paying more just for the quality, and we do. So yeah.
So you guys are too young to remember the advent of cable. When cable first came out, you had to pay for cable, of course. There was network television that was totally free. Everybody got it for free. It somehow magically we all had reception. We had bunny ears or whatever we had, but we got them. Cable was purely for premium content, and you paid for it, and there were no ads on cable at all. And as cable got more and more popular, ads started creeping in, and at first everybody was outraged. How dare you put ads on? We're already paying for this. And people just got used to it, and it just became par for the course. And paying for cable and having to sit through ads just became the norm. And I see it happening with streaming all over again.
Yep.
We're going the same way.
Yeah. And the 720p thing that Steven mentioned is the most bizarre thing to me. Like
that is weird.
I don't really understand why it would drop down. Like, can you even get Netflix right now in 720p before they introduced this? I always thought 1080p was the bare minimum, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think you could even, it was worse. I think it was 480 in some, if you were really like skimping out, or like it can go that low. So
interesting.
But yeah, like nobody should be watching anything in 720p in 2022 or even HD really for that matter. So
I feel like this tier is targeted at people who, are really, really budget conscious, maybe you're a student or something like that, but obviously, you know, you want to watch stuff.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is like maybe as cable, regular old cable, which isn't really dying, and I don't know if it ever will, but as regular cable is kind of struggling a little bit and people are trying to look at ways to cut the cord a little bit more, this, you know, if they're already used to ads on TV and they're getting Netflix for the first time, is it really going to be a big deal if there's you know, ads on their Netflix account? I don't know.
Yeah.
There might be something there. Obviously they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't think it was going to make some money for them, right? Obviously somebody's going to want this. And to me, it's a little weird. I have a love-hate relationship with advertising. As somebody who actually studied advertising in college and stuff, I can appreciate some of, you know, its necessities. It's a bit of a necessary evil in a lot of ways, and it can actually do a lot of good for certain things. But it's like, it also depends on the platform I'm on. Like, for example, I don't pay for like YouTube Premium, which I know a lot of my friends do, because they're like, oh man, I'm tired of seeing like a multitude of like YouTube ads. But I actually like watching. I mean, I don't really watch them, but I like letting the ads play on YouTube because it supports very minimally, but it does support the channels that I actually watch, right? They get a little bit of money from that AdSense.
I mean, our paychecks are paid in part by ads.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, ads.
Yeah, the irony is
part
not
of
lost on us as we discuss advertising.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody enjoy ads, you know, coming across their media of choice? No, of course not. But they are what make these things possible.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. They seem to be like a necessary evil. It's been nice. I guess like streaming services have had a nice run recently with you know, not having to do this, but now it's kind of like implementing it all, which brings us to our next point, is that will ads come to Apple TV Plus? Which I guess that I don't know. That's the question. I'm trying to like, part of me is so sort of flabbergasted that Apple would do this, but then again, every other person in the streaming space is doing it. Every other company is doing it. So I guess why wouldn't they?
I'm the opposite of flabbergasted. Gasted? I don't know. But
unflabbered.
I'm completely unsurprised at the prospect of Apple adding ads to Apple TV Plus. $5 a month is already cheaper than pretty much any other streaming service. And the quality of the content has continued to get better and better. And it's such a great deal. Like, it just couldn't last forever, right? So I think that the $5 a month tier is going to be the ad-supported tier. And then Apple will add more expensive tiers if you want to remove the ads. That's my prediction.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Because like you said, Karen, it's almost, Apple TV Plus is already about as cheap as it could be. Like, so it wouldn't be like Netflix. Apple's not going to make like a $2.50. They might, but probably not like a $2.50 Apple TV Plus tier that is supported by ads. So yeah, I agree. I think we've been probably sitting long overdue an Apple TV Plus price increase when you think about how much content is on the platform now compared to when it first launched, and it's held that price. Live sports as well, probably going to continue to grow. It's just a rumor at this point, but according to Digiday, actually, they reckon that Apple has already been having talks with media agencies about selling space on both original content and sports content. So, yeah, who knows?
It's very Apple to draw you in with a free sample, a free trial subscription, free or inexpensive, and then raise the price on you. That's how they make money.
And Apple reportedly is also looking at advertising in a lot of other places that you maybe don't want it in your ecosystem. So like on Apple Maps, for instance, is one that's been mentioned. I'm trying to think of others because I know there are, but Apple Maps is the only one I think of off the top of my head. I don't know why.
I really don't like that, because you use Apple Maps while you're driving, or while you're sometimes in an emotional state, because you're lost, or trying to get somewhere in a hurry, and that's just not a good place to put ads.
Yeah, that is the thing that we've been hearing quite a bit, is rumors of Apple sort of experimenting or planning on sort of testing out ads across their platforms. And it's we've talked about it before, as Apple has gotten so big and they're such a massive, insanely rich company, you know, in a capitalist society that we live in, they always have to make more money in some way. And one of the best ways to do that is to either add services or, you know, make you the service, right? Make you the service that they can then sell to advertisers. So it's an unfortunate spot that we're in. We'll have to see how, you know, annoying if and when it does come, how annoying it'll be. I'm interested. I agree with you, Stephen, where like, I'm interested exactly how they would implement ads on Apple TV Plus, just like, because yeah, it's already literally the cheapest service, I think, at least like in terms of full streaming services. I know maybe like Roku and stuff. I'm not familiar with everything. Some things I don't get here in Canada either, but like it's one of the cheapest of like the major services of like Disney and Netflix and stuff. It's even already cheaper than Netflix's announced ad supported tier. So how are they going to make that any cheaper? So I think, Karen, you're right. I think like this will become the ad tier, and then they'll offer, you know, a more expensive tier to get rid of the ads. Because it doesn't make sense to drop it down. I don't think, at least not, I don't think the money would, I don't think there would be enough people going for it that would be worth for Apple's time. Like to drop it down to like a $2 a month or something like that doesn't seem super reasonable.
Do you know what would be the most painless place to put ads would be between episodes? You know, when you're binging a show and it just goes right from one episode to the next. I wouldn't mind having a little break in between, like put all the ads
not a terrible
there, like
idea.
5 minutes, and it just kind of gives me time to just kind of process what I've just seen and just kind of like take a moment, you know?
Well, that's interesting because Netflix say on average, the ad-supported tier will feature 4 to 5 adverts an hour. So, I mean, you might as well be watching network television by then, I guess, really, which is...
Yeah, I always it sucks that it's likely, it sounds like it's going to be in the middle of the content. You know,
that's how it always is.
Yeah, to me it makes sense if like
if it was
they force you at the end or at the beginning to like maybe watch some ads or whatever, which in some ways kind of already happens. Like for example, with Prime Video, I've been noticing more and more lately. And I mean, I guess it's an ad, although it's not an ad for an outside advertiser, but I've been noticing more and more lately that like Prime Video, when you go to turn on a show on Amazon's Prime Video, it'll have like a trailer for something that's coming out or something that just came out.
That I don't mind so much.
I don't mind it, and I understand, and it's not really like it's not really an ad in like the traditional
trailer
sense.
I mean, you go to a movie, you get there on time because you want to see the trailers, right? So
and some of the adverts,
coming attractions is kind of fun. And
they do have adverts. Do you not have the adverts before?
They do have ads at the beginning of movies now, but they didn't used to. It used to be just trailers.
We've now started getting, I don't know about you, so you'd have like all like the crap adverts, then you have the trailers, and then you don't have the movie. They've started doing like the trailers, and then they go back to like more adverts, and then they go to the movie, which I think is quite egregious, but that's just me.
Yeah,
Marsh
I don't
in the comment
like
it makes 2 really good points about this. The first one is that this like it challenges like a really basic understanding I think most people have about consuming content, free content, paid content, which is you have ad supported content because it's free, and it's free because it's ad supported, or you have premium content which you pay for because it doesn't have adverts in it. And now Netflix and possibly Apple and others are blurring the lines, so you have paid for content that is also supported by ads and ad content that you pay for, and it isn't free, but you still have to watch the ads. And I guess nobody's forcing anyone, you know, to sign up to whichever tier it is. So if you don't want the ads, you can keep paying for as much Netflix as you want, or if you do want to, you know, reduce your monthly outgoings with something like this, you know, every little helps, I guess. So like people can go for it, but yeah, like there is just like when you pay for something. Christine wrote, now departed from iMore, of course, wrote a really good article when it came out that Apple might be putting ads, you know, across the ecosystem. It was basically like, you know, we pay the Apple tax, which I hate that word. We pay the Apple tax for a reason, you know, when we're forking out premium amounts of money on Apple TV, the iPhone, iPad, all that sort of stuff. Part of that is you're paying not to have adverts on it because it's this, fundamental understanding that premium paid for content does not come with advertising, and so the lines are being blurred, I guess. And but the other point she makes that is also really good is that it's actually not Marshall, a chap called Scott in the comments has said is to drive subscription, like what these platforms should really be doing is investing in content. Like if Netflix is losing subscribers, I know it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing because you hear about Netflix losing subscribers, struggling, yada, yada, yada. So Netflix is going to cancel a bunch of different shows and movies that it had, but then there are less reasons to watch Netflix, and it's a cycle. So I think, you're much better if you want to drive subscriptions. I would much rather see Netflix investing in like more excellent premium content or buying existing content. Amazon recently picked up all of the James Bond movies, which I'm very excited about. Really like to watch that. Investing in content and driving people to your platform that way, rather than just making it cheaper and bringing the ads, like everybody benefits from the increased content and stuff. But it's really it makes sense. It's a win-win for the platform because if you're on Netflix, you're increasing subscription revenue because more people are going to come if they're paying for that cheaper advert tier who might not previously have subscribed, and you get the money from the advertising as well. So you're burning the candle at both ends in terms of the finance that it's bringing in. So it makes total sense.
Yeah, and the more streaming services that do it, the more streaming services are going to do it because people are accepting it. So the bottom line is, yes, Marsha's right. It's not fair, but they're doing it anyway, whether it's fair or not. And we can choose whether to spend our money there or go stream elsewhere. And people speak with their subscriptions. People speak with their money. So that's where streamers, all the streamers are going to go. But yeah, and Scott is absolutely correct. Content is king. If a show is extremely good, I am going to watch it. It doesn't matter what it costs. If it means I stream one service 1 month and cut another one to save money and go switch back and forth between streaming services. We do that sometimes. If a show is really good, I'm going to watch it no matter what. If I have to watch ads, if I have to pay a premium, whatever it is. And if it's not that great, it's getting cut.
Yeah. And I think, Karen, I think you're right. We're probably going to sorry, Luke, I was just going to say, we're probably going to this state where, like cable TV in the beginning, people are like, whoa, adverts on streaming services. What are you doing? In a couple of years, it'll be the norm. I think advertising, much to Luke's chagrin, is only going to increase. There's only going to be more adverts in more places to attract more people. It's just, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, just wait till we all strap on our Apple AR or VR headsets and see all the ads in 3D.
Yeah,
space.
I've read dystopic future novels that are very much like that, where everybody has some kind of like personal device that's like either implanted into their brains directly or in directly in their field of vision, no matter what they do, and constant stream of ads, and it's kind of gross, but that seems to be where we're going.
I was going to say it's in almost every look at almost every dystopian sci-fi film or comic or media from the past 50 years, and you'll see just big billboards of like ads everywhere. It's like neon lights everywhere and stuff like that. It's kind of always been a vision of the future.
I kind of like it. Blade Runner.
I mean, it's an aesthetic.
You don't know any difference, Stephen.
We've made it into an aesthetic, but Either way, moving on. We'll have to see what comes of that. But AirTags have been in the news a lot recently, and this time not for super nefarious reasons, but because a German airline, Lufthansa, which I hopefully said right.
Good effort. Nope, you smashed it.
They started a bit of a controversy when there was a tweet from their official account that said that they couldn't check AirTags anymore in their luggage because of fire risk or risks from the signals being sent. But it seemed to happen after people were using them in their bags to sort of shame the airline online about lost luggage, and people being like, look where my luggage is. It's nowhere near where, like, it's in a different country. It's in a different airport, what have you. And then that started a giant Twitter storm. And then the airline has since said that they weren't but the tweet was sort of still remaining, and it didn't really make a lot of sense. But they have apparently now confirmed that they've done their own testing on AirTags and have said that they are safe and that there are no more reasons that they can't be included in your checked luggage. So I guess that puts this to bed. A bit of an odd beef that sort of happened in the last few days with people trying to figure out how exactly you're going to enforce no AirTags in checked luggage. That would be very
good luck with that.
Yeah,
I think the first tweet was kind of an emotional, not well researched or thought out tweet. Just kind of shot off in response to criticism. But
in fairness, it did say like Lufthansa is looking into banning AirTags, not that they were like already banned, but yeah, it blew up, got very out of hand very quickly because that's like quite a big deal, like you said, for all of the reasons, especially the enforcement one. If you put an AirTag just inside your luggage, like say for breaking the suitcase open, you're not going to find it, and authorities aren't going to be looking for them and stuff. But yeah, there seemed to be a bit of confusion because Lufthansa essentially in their statement certainly to us said that they hadn't banned them, but German aviation authorities, that I'm not going to try and pronounce the German word for that. You can look it up online if you're interested. They had done Lufthansa had said, we think the AirTags are safe, but the current regulations don't allow, from the authorities, the AirTags to be brought on. And then it came out a few days later, actually the GAA had, done a similar risk assessment and decided it. So it's just a bit of a gray area. I think in America, the regulations, they specifically identify AirTags as being like safe, but it is like a bit of a gray area because it's a lithium ion battery, even a tiny one. There is like a fire risk. That's why you can't take like huge lithium ion batteries into most like cargo holds and stuff like that. So yeah, a bit of a quirky one. But yeah, you're right. It did come in the context which made it look a little bit strange of how you said like AirTags are being used by passengers to hold airlines to account as to where their baggage is when it's not where it's supposed to be, which is you can see maybe why airlines are not too excited about AirTags on their flights.
For sure. I have a friend who I met in Italy for a trip last summer, and the airline lost her luggage for like a good 4 or 5 days, I think it was. So she had absolutely no luggage for 5 days. And for the first 3 or 4 days of that, the airline had no idea where her luggage was. And I was like, well, if you had an AirTag in your bag, I didn't say it like that, but if she had been able to track it, she at least would have been able to help the airline locate her luggage, which may have gotten it to her a couple of days sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I use AirTags every day, mainly on my keys and in my wallet, and I love them. I haven't traveled since AirTags have been a thing, but I probably would throw one in my luggage, I think, or like I would throw
I have and I do. All of my luggage that is not on my person at all times has an AirTag in it.
Yeah. So I a little confusing. It's a good reminder for companies that to maybe look over who's taking charge of your social media accounts and what they're saying. And then you kind of walked yourself into a corner. It was weird, but apparently now it's all good. It's been declared safe by the authorities, and they're like, okay, we're all good. Use your AirTags like you want. So, I can't imagine traveling now that I have the ability to throw an AirTag in my luggage. Can't imagine me not wanting to do that now. It just like gives me that extra peace of mind. If my luggage doesn't show up to where I am, hopefully I'll be able to see it. Hopefully there's an iPhone around that can ping it somewhere, wherever it ends up being. So, I think I'm surprised. I could, like Steven said, I sort of understand why airlines might not like it if people are using it to like, bother them a bunch and saying like, oh, look how bad they are if they're losing luggage a lot. But is it not helpful if they literally don't know where it is, if they can't track it down, which has happened? I've had that happen to family members as well.
Right. And if you're somebody who has lost your luggage, are you going to not shame the airline on Twitter just because you don't know where your luggage is?
Yeah.
I don't see how AirTags make any difference for that.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a weird catch or a bit of a weird situation, but it seems like it's all sorted out now.
Yeah.
Moving on to iPhone, in news that probably shouldn't surprise anyone, the iPhone 14 Plus sales are unexpectedly, apparently, slow, which was something I think all of us sort of
We all
called.
predicted it.
I mean, I said that maybe the 14 Plus would maybe outsell the regular 14, but I didn't think it was going to outsell the Pro by any means. And that's essentially exactly what is happening. According to Digitime's report, which was seen by Mac Rumors, Apple sales of the iPhone 14 and iPhone 14 Plus were lower than expected, despite the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max doing quite well. I guess, the lesson here is if you relaunch the same phone that you launched last year with only very minimal upgrades, you don't expect people to buy it. It's at least not right when it comes out, right?
Yeah, I think those numbers will creep up because I just don't think that people who are anxious to get the new phone right when it comes out are generally buying the lower tier. They're generally going to be buying the Pro phones. So as people replace their dead and dying phones over the course of the year, they will pick the iPhone 14 and 14
It's
Plus.
interesting, though, isn't it, that last year and the year before, it was the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13, and it was the mini, and it was like, this phone stinks. Nobody wants to buy it. It's too small. The battery life's terrible. Less than 5% of all iPhone sales, right, across the 2 years. So then Apple replaced it with a massive phone that, has great battery life, really good screen real estate, and it still seems to be like just as unpopular. Maybe Apple should just get rid of the fourth like iPhone in the lineup, which is this weird iPhone 14 Plus or Mini that they can't seem to find a target audience for, and save the Pro Max and the Pro for the premium users, and just have an iPhone 14 or an iPhone 15. It's very strange.
Honestly, I think that would be plenty. Save Apple a lot of hassle.
Conversely, it may be a cost. Sorry, Luke. I was just going to say it may be a cost thing. It is a much more expensive device than the Mini was. It'd be $200 difference in price. And in the economic climes that we live in, there's probably quite a lot of people steering away from it for financial reasons. Where previously, last year or the year before, the iPhone Mini is actually like a budget. It's a cheaper option. So maybe an iPhone 14 Mini would have done better this year, where people are maybe looking to save money when they buy a new phone. So,
well, what I want is the large screen real estate and large battery, but the small form factor and the Pro features. And while we're at it, let's go with the Mini price tag as well.
All of the phones, then,
Yeah, every phone. If you took every phone they made and made it into one phone, it would be a super phone.
Pick and choose the features I want from each phone. Make it magically into one.
What was it was a Google project. What was that called? Like Google Aria, where they were going to make a phone. The idea they like looked into it. It never really got past the like development stage, but they were like trying to make a phone that like literally had modules that you could swap out. So you'd be like, oh, I want to upgrade my camera. Instead of like buying a whole new phone, I literally go buy this camera module and like stick it in my phone. Now I have a better camera. Yeah. It was originally a separate project, then Google bought it and like kept it going for a couple of years to sort of like try it out, but it never came to any sort of like consumer product. They were just testing it. But I always thought that idea sounded super cool. Like if you could just like swap out parts of your phone and make your phone kind of like
phone.
Right.
It's a fun idea, but awesome. I'm just thinking waterproofing would be a nightmare on that.
Yeah, I think there's just some things that you probably couldn't get on that, like maybe.
Yeah, I think it came out before waterproofing on phones was really a thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I would be I am of the and Apple's maybe even the biggest. What am I trying to say? Like the I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but I feel like there does need to be a little bit more innovation in the smartphone space. And that's not just from an Apple standpoint. That's from like everybody's standpoint. And obviously we have foldable phones now, which are sort of coming from some of the Android places. And we expect that Apple will eventually jump on that train when they figure out a way that they want to do it. Because they could very well get one done now if they wanted to, but I think they want to wait until it looks and feels a certain way. but I like more innovation. And I remember when I heard that project, I immediately thought this is probably never going to happen. But if it did happen, I think I'd have to buy it because it would just be such a cool device. Like it'd be so cool to be able to actually like swap things out. And I mean, like some companies have sort of tried something similar. There was like the Motorola had a phone that had like these, it was accessories you could add on, but you would actually clip them to the phone. They had like a camera hold and a battery case and stuff like that. That you would actually sort of clip the phone, kind of, I guess, sort of like MagSafe, but like a little more intense than that. Yeah. So I don't know. There's more innovation can come. And the iPhone 14 was not very innovative in sort of any way, which is a little unfortunate, but also, as we mentioned, it's not for the people who want innovation, right? That's not,
Yeah,
that's not,
and
that's
there
not who the
are
phone's for.
there are third-party accessories that you can clip on to the iPhone, like Olo Clip and Moment make
Yeah.
lenses that you can clip onto the iPhone. Special cases that make it really easy to, like Moment, for example, makes special cases that make it really easy to clip on the extra lenses if you wanted to go that way.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of the iPhone 14, iPhone crash detection, which is one of the new features actually in the iPhone 14, but it's also on obviously the Pro models as well. We've talked a bit about it, about how clearly we're not personally going to test it because that's just crazy talk. Some people have. There's YouTube videos up there of people crashing cars and seeing things, and there's been videos being like, "Look, we kind of crashed this car. We like rolled it down this hill." And nothing happened. And Karen and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and we said like it must be because it's not reaching like the amount of G-force that you would reach if you were actually in a crash going full speed. Well, you know what does reach those G-force speeds? Roller coasters, because Joanna Stern of the Wall Street Journal has said that there has been an uptick in calls to amusement parks, saying that this owner was in a severe the owner of this iPhone was in a severe car crash, except the owner was actually just on a roller coaster. So this does seem to be a bit of an issue. I don't know how widespread it is, but this one specific example that Stern talks about is happening at Six Flags Great American near Chicago, is where they've had some similar reports, as well as in Cincinnati, Ohio, and rides on Kings Island as well. So interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't ride roller coasters. They're not my thing, but like, do you take your phone on roller coasters? Should you be taking your phone on roller coasters?
I do. Where are you going to put it? There's no, it's not like you can just like leave it sitting on the landing before you leave. I mean, there's no lockers. I mean, there are lockers at the beginning of the amusement park, but then you don't have your phone all day. I'm going to Disney World this winter, and I'll test it out and see. I'm not a big roller coaster person anymore because of those G-forces that you mentioned. They wreak havoc on me. So I have to be kind of careful about what rides I go on, but I'll see.
It is a weird one. The biggest thing for me, like no feature like this can be foolproof, right? Like the crash detection. It's all based on algorithms. Like the phone can never truly know. But Apple talked about how they'd tested it on, it was like 1 million hours of real like crash data in various test centers and all that sort of thing. The strange thing for me is that when you're on a roller coaster with the G-force, you're moving constantly.
Yeah,
or
I would think
you
you
slow down or you speed up. Exactly. I assumed an iPhone crash detection algorithm is based on you're in a car moving probably at speed. There is an accident, and then you stop moving, often quite suddenly. So unless there are, maybe there are certain roller coasters, we could look into this. We could send Karen to Kings Island to see, like, if there are certain
some rides
types of roller coasters.
Some rides do have more of a quick stop to them than others. So I'd be curious if it's like the particular rides that are setting off these the crash detection on iPhones, what those particular rides are, because a gradual stop shouldn't do it.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of roller coasters out there that I think do have pretty abrupt stops or very abrupt slowdowns. Maybe they don't like completely halt, but they like come to nearly a grind.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it definitely makes sense. It's not something I thought about when crash detection was announced. I did think about like, oh, what if it accidentally goes off when you like drop it or something like that? But I never thought about what if it accidentally goes off when you're actually putting yourself in G-forces, actively.
But it uses
There
more
is-
than just the gyroscope. It uses sound sensors as well. So like if you were in a car crash, it would make a loud sound. Whereas if you drop
roller
your phone, it's
coasters
not going to.
are very
Roller coasters are loud.
loud and metallic sounding. There is a drop
Yes.
tower at Kings Island that could, feasibly.
Yeah,
What
right.
else we got?
That would come to a sudden stop.
There are dodgems at Kings Island, which is literally like
bumper cars.
You do a car crash. In fact, I'm pretty sure Joanna Stern, she tested the crash detection in bumper cars. So if other people are riding bumper cars, then yes, feasibly.
But bumper cars don't go that fast. I wouldn't think the bumper cars would be faster.
The stop as well, I think, is there was some water.
But it needs to be speed and the stop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There are a lot of roller coasters at Kings Island, and there are definitely some that I could see how an iPhone might think they've been involved in a car crash. The interesting thing, though, is that when you if you are involved in a crash, your iPhone or your watch thinks that, you get a 10-second warning which says, it looks like you've been in a car crash. We're going to call the emergency services and you can stop it. So obviously on a roller coaster, you're probably not paying attention to your phone or your watch doing the little.
Well, you shouldn't have your phone out on a roller coaster.
Definitely
Yeah,
don't do that.
In fact, I'm pretty sure there's rules against that.
Somebody was one of my kids worked at Cedar Point, not last summer, but the summer before, and somebody was actually killed that summer, climbing under a roller coaster trying to retrieve the phone that they had dropped.
That happened here in my city too. The fair that comes through Annalee, that happened a few years ago, where somebody had dropped their phone. They're trying to get it, and this is like, oh man, it's tragic. They're dangerous. They're dangerous things. It's one of the reasons why I don't go on them. I'm too risk adverse to go on roller coasters. Plus, I saw Final Destination 3 when I was like too young, and then I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done.
My mom didn't take a shower for like 20 years after seeing the movie Psycho.
Fair.
The same thing.
So just in case you don't know, or you're going on any roller coasters, you can actually turn off crash detection. It is in your settings. You go to settings, then emergency SOS, and then there's a little toggle feature for crash detection that says call after severe crash. I'll quickly try and put it on the screen, which you can't see anyway. So either way, so settings, emergency SOS, and then there's a little toggle switch under crash detection you can turn off. That'll turn it off, and then you can always turn it back on when you're done riding the rides.
Yeah. The problem, of course, as well, is the message that goes out to 911 dispatch is an automated message. So it's not like your phone automatically calls and then you say, I've been in a car accident or whatever. So, there's not a person on the other end of the line that says, no, it's fine, I'm on a roller coaster. The emergency services just get the automated message, which is not very much information to go on. And this is, it's obviously a pretty important and delicate area. They have to take all, 911 calls and emergency calls seriously, but it's impossible to interpret that any other way. But also that's, a dispatch and airwaves that are being taken up by maybe someone who really does need 911. So Apple did issue a statement, and they kind of lauded the life-saving kind of aspect of the features and the peace of mind, but also said that they're going to improve it over time, which is as good as an admission as you're going to get from someone like Apple, that there is room to grow and improve. And I assume Apple, in the way it usually is, will be able to collect data from the real world now that people have these phones and this feature to improve it. So yeah.
Yeah. Let's move into some rumors that have come up this week. One of the big ones is actually talking about the iPhone SE, Apple's, budget iPhone, which is currently in its third iteration now. Saying there's reports that come from Ross Yun, who told Mac Rumors he expects the fourth generation of the iPhone SE to pretty much be like an iPhone XR. So it'll have like the 6.1 inch LCD display and a notch, potentially fancy colors, maybe if they bring those back from the XR line. But yeah, so that means that it actually presumably will have Face ID and will look a lot like the 10R. Probably have much, upgraded internals. I would assume like probably the latest chip, or maybe an A15 instead of a 16, perhaps, since the 16 has kind of been reserved for the Pro phones. But yeah, I think this is interesting. I think like there was a time where I thought the 10R was a really cool product when it first sort of like launched, like just around the time that the 10 launched. I thought it was or the 10S I think launched, and I thought that was great. And then they sold it for a lot longer than they probably should have, because it eventually kind of became not really worth what they were asking, and now it's obviously gone. So if they brought it back, I think it's kind of everything you want from a budget phone, unless of course this would mean that like Apple is for sure killing Touch ID on iPhones, at least for the foreseeable future, until we get it either under the display or in the power button or something later.
Yeah,
later
but
on.
it's the home button that's the key. Not so much Touch ID as the home button for
Yeah.
like my mom and my father-in-law. Like they do not want to lose that home button.
Totally.
It's just how they're used to doing things, and it will be a tough adjustment if they have to get away from
it's
the
so
home button.
tactile, isn't it? And it's such a safe, that at any
it's
time,
the
any
I'm
place in your
panicking,
iPhone,
I don't know.
if you're stuck, press the home button.
Yeah, it's like I'm panicking. I don't know what to do with my iPhone. What is the screen? How do I get out of this? Press the home button, and you're out.
So,
yeah,
it's
and
it's
I
a
mean,
shame, like you said. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Luke. I was just going to say it is a big welcome hardware upgrade, and the biggest overhaul the SE's had, well, since when we went from the first generation to the 2, obviously 2 to the 3, almost nothing changed externally. We still got like the iPhone 8 design.
But the iPhone SE isn't for you or me or anybody listening to this show.
Yeah. I think I'll be interested to see how it does, because like Karen said, like my mom has an SE, and that was because she went into, she had like an iPhone 6 or something like that, and went to go get it upgraded like last year, and she was like, I just want this again. And they were like, you can get that again, here it is. And she was like, great. So
my mom has an iPhone 8. It's not even her first iPhone 8. She bought another iPhone 8 when I'm like, Mom, why don't you talk to me before you buy a new phone? I would have at least steered her to the iPhone SE, but moving away from the home button is going to be a tough one for her.
But definitely a huge. So it would be like a big old, like kind of cleaver to that era of iPhone design, because you remember, so it was the iPhone 8, which is now the iPhone SE, is when Apple did the one more thing. Yeah, it was. There wasn't an 8S. Yeah, it was Apple did the one more thing, showed us the iPhone 10, and everyone was like, whoa. I remember thinking, that looks crap. I don't want anything to do with that. And then I went into the store, picked it up, and I was like, wow, this is the iPhone 10. I think I did an article recently where I ranked the iPhone design, and iPhone 10 didn't win, but I think it was number 2 behind the jet black iPhone 7. But yeah, the iPhone 10 was a phenomenal piece of design when you think about like the metal and the edges and the swipe up and the Face ID and the notch and everything like that. So yeah, the 10R was really like the SE of that kind of that line anyway. So it does make a lot of sense. And yeah, Luke, I agree with you. You'll get probably the A15 chip, not the A16, I would have thought, and 5G. And all those things. So I think it'd be a really, really welcome upgrade. It's a fantastic design phone, but yeah, Karen, like you said, it'll be a big ask for the people who the iPhone SE is really aimed at, who want that home button, that security, that safety.
And I got to tell you, my mom is going to be mad to have to buy a new case. She's had the same case for I don't know how many years.
That's true. People love their cases.
Yeah, people get really attached, but I listen, Apple has to move on, right? And, my mom and my father-in-law and everybody I know who has the iPhone, my aunt has the iPhone SE. They'll adjust, when there's a new design and they have to learn how to swipe, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this rumor is true. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I'm excited I'm wondering if some of those 10R colors will come back, or if they'll have new colors, or because typically the SE line has really only been the 3, right? It's been like a silver, a black, and a product red. At least that was what the
Yeah,
most recent one was.
right, right. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna bring back the exact same 10R colors. I think there'll be something
That's the
new.
shame because it had an amazing blue color, if I recall the 10R, which was really nice.
Yeah,
And
Gosh,
the
I
blue
the
was
can't
nice.
SE is
remember. Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah. One of my kids still
I
has
think
that. Several people in my family still have the 10R because
Mhm.
that blue one was really nice. My youngest one has that.
Yeah, the blue was nice,
yeah,
and I actually,
there was yellow, coral as well. Do you remember that?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. My
the
husband had the coral. I don't think anybody in my family got the yellow, but that was a nice one too. Just really vivid colors.
It was almost like
yeah.
a
So
5C lineup, and I think the SE is
Yeah,
missing that kind of flash of color.
yeah, which I mean, if one of the big ways that Tim Cook and Apple have made the SEs and made these cheaper products is they do reuse old designs to
Mhm.
make sure that they don't have to put any more time or effort into development or research of those things, and that cuts down on cost and
Yeah.
things
right.
like that. So it's possible that they might even come back in the exact same colors if they still
Who
have
knows? Yeah.
if they
If
still
they
have
still have
that
those
ability.
those old
Yeah,
cases lying
if they
around,
still have,
maybe.
or they know they can produce them very easily since they produced them for
Yeah.
years before.
There
Right,
is
they've
So
like
already
a
got the machines for it.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, it's like a supply
so
chain business decision. Like you said, there'll
Right.
be a point
yeah,
where it is cheaper to go with the previous gen, the Touch ID iPhone 8.
yeah,
Apple's probably crossed the threshold now where it's now like more expensive to not move on with all of the other iPhones that you
totally,
have, which is yeah.
exactly. Which yeah, and I mean we know that's Tim Cook's background, right? Is logistics. He
Yeah,
and making supply chains work for them. That's what his kind of bread and butter. And he's done it
yeah,
very well at the helm of Apple. So
yeah.
I totally see this happening, they could bring back the exact same colors.
It could be something as simple as the machines, the factories that make the SE
Mhm.
form factor they're just wearing down, like breaking down, and Apple's having to make a decision. Do we spend the money to upgrade these machines, these factories, so that we can
Mhm.
Mhm.
keep producing this old form factor, or do we just get rid of them and change them over to something new? So we'll
Yeah, and
see.
the other wrinkle in this too, talking about like the manufacturing, is like we know that Apple is sort of like looking to diversify where it manufactures its iPhones. It's already
Mhm.
shipped some of it out of China into India. There's been Vietnam as well, um, and yeah, so that could be a part of this too. Like maybe it's easier to set up those new factories with some of the quote unquote like newer stuff than trying to lug this older stuff, which might not be as efficient to
Right.
travel. Or there's like a bunch of things that it could be.
Right.
But we do know that like one of the best ways that Apple likes to cut costs is just like not having to change the outside of something. Just immediately kind of like makes everything a little easier if they already have those production lines kind of going.
Right.
Yeah, let's last little rumor here for the day, coming from Mark Gurman, of course,
Hmm.
is about USB-C, which he believes the iPhone 15, perhaps and perhaps AirPods should be getting the USB-C before 2024's end, and that the wireless is still the future for Apple. So we've heard a lot about this before. Obviously, we know that like Europe is going to be, the EU is going to be passing that law, or already did pass that law. I can't exactly remember how it works, but there is going to be like some sort of for manufacturers where they have to include USB-C on their devices. I believe by the year 2025, if I remember correctly. So we know
Mhm.
that Apple's going to be forced to sort of put it on iPhones, at least in Europe, and it probably doesn't make sense for Apple to have a European phone and then an American phone.
No.
Although they did do that with the eSIM very recently, so
Mhm.
who knows? But we've kind of been expecting, we know that like iPads have had USB-C for a little while now, the Pro, and then now the Air. There's even talks, Mark Gurman says, that the base iPad by the end of 2024 might even have USB-C. So it sounds like Apple is slowly but surely converting everything over to USB-C, which hopefully in the long run will make things easier
Yeah.
for people. I feel like we've been in this transition for way too long.
Listen, it makes sense to do this, to get everything over to one simple charging system. It's going to be a painful transition. People are going to scream about it. And I can tell you, everybody in my social set is going to be, they're going to complain to me about it. It's going to be my personal fault because I'm going to be hearing about it for like a year and a half, if not longer. So it's the way of the future, people. Let's move on.
Yeah. I still don't know. We've heard a lot about how like Apple eventually will go completely portless, just relying on like wireless charging for charging and things like AirDrop for sending files and stuff. Although that only really works with Apple products. That concerns me because of things like recovery and stuff. Sometimes having an actual port to the device is pretty important for things like that. And I worry about what that can mean. Obviously, they've had internet recovery for a while as well, where it uses a network and you don't have to port in, but that doesn't always work in my experience. I've had to definitely use recovery mode with an actual putting my iPhone plugged into my computer and going through like those process of like erasing it, re-downloading the OS and kind of getting it. I've had that happen before. It's a sticky situation to be in, and it's frustrating as it is. And I can't imagine how frustrating it would be if it'd be like, oh, I can't do this now. I'm just like stuck. It doesn't want to connect to the internet. I guess I have to go to the Apple store.
Totally wireless is a tough one because there's CarPlay as well, because people don't change their cars that often, generally, not as often as they change their phones necessarily. So that'll take a while, I think. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. And also the other thing is that people want things on the back of their phones, and MagSafe, as great as I think MagSafe is, it's not really caught on that well. Nobody that I know really uses MagSafe, even if their phone has that capability. So I think we've got to have some kind of port for a while longer.
Yeah, or charging, like wireless charging just has like, even when it is done well, even if it is done through MagSafe or what have you, or there's Android phones that can even do it faster than Apple can right now. Like it's still just a really inefficient way of charging a phone. Like it's
Right.
You lose a lot of power transfer during it. It takes a lot more power to do it than actually gets it to your phone.
It's slower.
It's really not efficient. It's like produces quite a bit of heat, which can be a problem for phones. In the long term exposure, heat's not good for your batteries.
Right.
So it's got a long way to go, which is why like I hope the portless iPhone doesn't come anytime soon. But Gurman has sort of like quipped that the USB-C era will be shorter than like the Lightning era in total. We've had Lightning for a long time now, so that still could be a decent amount of time. But it does sound like at least what Gurman thinks from his sources, that it is going to, we are going to be phasing into that direction of like a completely portless iPhone, which will I think we still got some work to do. But if Apple's really, if Apple really wants to do it, they'll pull the trigger. They've done it before. They took out the headphone jack and everybody went crazy. And now how many phones have a headphone jack on them from the major companies? Not many left. So they're used to doing this sort of thing. That's for sure. Let's move on to a little bit of we've talked a lot about rumors and what's coming up. The year is almost over. We keep hearing there's going to be something in October. We heard there was going to be an event. Then it started being like, well, it's not going to be an event. It's going to be press releases. We're midway through October, coming tomorrow, I guess. And we have yet to hear a peep from Apple. That's not entirely surprising. We've heard that apparently iPad OS 16, which was delayed sort of, is finally going to be coming out. Mark Gurman says it's probably going to be the week of the 24th, which would be like the last week of the full week of October. So that could be an indication of when products might launch, whether that's going to be an event or just press releases. But with all that in mind, let's talk about what are you most excited for? What do you hope Apple announces from now until, let's just say, the end of 2022, not even this month. You can extend it a little bit in case they have like a secret November event or something, which they've done before. Let's go Stephen first. Stephen, what do you want to see by the end of 2022 from Apple?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, like you could like there's the generic stuff like the iPads Max and stuff like that. The thing for me that I most like to see is a new HomePod, because it has been like too long in the home space for Apple not to have done something exciting. We've had the old HomePod for quite a while now. I don't remember when it came out, but it's been a long time. I still have them. They're still fantastic. The HomePod Mini, also excellent, lots of different ways. But a new speaker from Apple for me would be like the highlight of the year, because everything else is like kind of expected, like almost like a given. A HomePod would still be a bit of a surprise, but also I would really like that. We've heard that Apple has lots of different types of HomePod in the works. So maybe like a medium-sized HomePod, maybe like an update to the old, larger HomePod, like a form factor, maybe a HomePod with an iPad, or a HomePod that looks like a sound bar. Just something. If I had to pick one, I would probably go for that HomePod sound bar hybrid kind of thing, because I think the HomePod makes the most sense when you use it in a home entertainment system. So I would say that the HomePod, that home entertainment focus is its biggest kind of area for it to shine. So some sort of HomePod, but specifically I would really like to see like a home entertainment sound bar-y kind of number. That would be what I'd like to see before the end of this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's been a while since Apple's done something in the in that space now, and we keep hearing that there's probably going to be something, and so I would be very keen on that as well. How about you, Karen? What are you hoping that Apple launches before the end of 2022?
Well, I would love to see a new Apple TV.
Mm.
I have a Roku and a Fire Stick and on different TVs in my house, and they both are fine. And I can get my Apple TV Plus shows on there along with the other streaming services that I have. But the user interface on both of them is just terrible. I mean, terrible. Like, I can't tell you how many times it's the regular thing. My husband and I throw each other that remote out of frustration. Like, one of us will just get too fed up with it, and we'll just throw it at the other one. And then the other one will get all frustrated and throw it back. And it's like a nightly ritual that I don't like. And I just want like an Apple nice user interface where all of my streaming services are unified and it's all the same thing. I don't have to remember which streaming service is which, because all the user interfaces are totally different. And I want a better experience with that.
Yeah, that would be cool. And unfortunately, I think it takes some third-party willingness to get on board with Apple to do something like that.
Well, we're fantasizing here, so
yeah, I know. Oh, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like I agree with the fantasy 100%. I
didn't say it was realistic.
Yeah, because we know in the past and still actively, Netflix seems to like not want to play ball with Apple when it comes to its content and how it can be displayed and whatnot. They really want you in that app of theirs. So yeah, that would be cool. I think my pick, I'm going to go with a bit of a safer pick because I think we're probably going to see this. That's just my guess, just on the rumors that we've been hearing, but I'm going to pick the upgrade, like the iPad, the 10th gen, just like baseline iPad, because I'm really interested with the stuff we've been hearing about it, where it's going to kind of like shift its form factor to a bit of this hybrid of like the old school form factor with like still a chin and a home button and you know, some bezels and stuff, but kind of put it into like that more sleek looking kind of case that has like the, you know, the squared off edges and the more kind of like flat design like that, but still sort of have that familiarity that we were talking about that the SE might lose if those rumors are true, of the home button and sort of the generic looks and stuff. I think it can be a really cool product. I think it's been a long time since the base iPad has had a form factor change other than like sizing. It's gotten different sizes over the years. There was like it's kind of keeps going up. There was a 9.7 inch for a while. Now it's up to 10.2, then 10.9, all sorts of things like that. So other than just a size increase, it's essentially had the exact same design, more or less, since its inception. So I think, 10 years, the 10th generation, 10 years of iPad, even though I don't think it's actually 10 years. But it's over 10 years, actually, now that I think about it, right? iPad was in 2010. Yeah. So it's over 10 years, But like the 10th generation of the original iPad, kind of like what we saw with the 10th, I guess the 10th iPhone, even though it was the 9th, if you're counting, sort of.
10 years of iPhone, I believe.
Yeah, 10 years of iPhone. So 10 seems to be maybe that's Apple's shtick. They pick a 10, whatever 10 they want, and they make a big deal out of it. So maybe it's the 10th generation iPad this time around. Yeah, I'm excited to see what that can be. I'm also, like I said, very interested to see what they're going to do with the price of that model. If it is a new case design and things like that, is that going to affect that price, that $399 price point that I think is so important to that lineup, because it's just like a really great tablet for that price, kind of bar none across the space. So that's the one that I think, and I think it's probably the one out of the ones that we talked about here today. It's probably the one that's more likely to happen.
Yeah, I think you'll get your wish, Luke.
Yeah, but we don't know. No one knows. We don't know what's happening. We'll keep an eye out and an ear out. Hopefully we hear something soon from Apple, whether it's an event or some sort of press releases. So keep on checking back with us. That's the whole show today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're joining us live, commenting along, talking with us, we really appreciate that. It's always awesome to see you all in the chat. If you're listening to us in your podcatcher of choice, which we're now on Spotify, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. If you want to get in contact with any of us, we got our Twitters up on the screen. We also have them in the show notes. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you like, what you want us to talk about, our opinions on things. We're always kind of open to hearing from our fans and our listeners. And also thank you to Jim Metzendorf, our audio editor, who always makes us sound so good. And until next week, keep fighting the good fight, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.